皆さんこんにちは、ながまるです。突然ですが、皆さん 98% のビットコインが今動いていないということをご存知でしたか？なんとこの 98% のビットコインをカルダノ上で、カルダノを使って動かそうとするプロジェクトがあるんですよ。でこれがサンダイルと呼ばれるプロジェクトなんですけど、ここの CEO の方、カルダノというブロックチェーン、そしてビットコインという巨大なブロックチェーンをつなごうと最前線でチャレンジしているプロジェクト、ここの創業者 CEO の方とインタビューすることができたので、ぜひそちらを今回皆様にお届けしたいなと思います。今回英語での、インタビューにはなりますけど、ぜひ最後までご覧いただけますと大変嬉しいです。それではインタビューへどうぞ。
Hi Sheldon, thank you for joining my YouTube channel today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor to be here.
Let's jump in. So I'd love to start by asking about Sundial. First question, what is a Sundial? Sundial is being introduced as a base UTXO-based layer to focus on bringing DeFi to the Bitcoin world through Cardano. What exactly is Sundial? What problems is it trying to solve?
Yes, yeah. Well, so it's a very good question. Ultimately, Sundial technologically is one of the first layer twos for Cardano. So we've seen on the Ethereum side and elsewhere in crypto, this approach to layer twos. So you get to use the base chain for security, and then you have additional functionality built on top for maybe speed and cost. And so on Ethereum, they have something called Optimism, and then there's many chains over there, Arbitrum and others. But nothing like this exists for Bitcoin or Cardano. But many people have been interested in it for a long time. And so now we have the technology, and we've been demoing it and working on it for quite some time, where together with Anastasia Labs and what they're building with Midgard, we can now showcase Cardano Layer 2, but not just for Cardano, because we now have the technology through our partnerships and through our own work to plug into Bitcoin natively as well. So it is a layer 2 to offer speed, security, and low costs for better adoption of Bitcoin and Cardano. So it's a very big win-win for a very promising and enlarged crypto ecosystem.
I see. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining. So, second question. Why build Sundial as a layer 2? There are already layer 2 solutions like Hydra, but Sundial take a very different path with their own approach. Why did you decide to build a completely new layer 2 instead of using existing ones?
Yep, it's a good question. It's a good question because actually, and this requires some technical details, because ultimately Hydra as a layer 2 and Sundial as a layer 2, they do different things. So Hydra is very promising, as we've seen like demos of playing video games like Doom. It's most similar to Bitcoin, where Bitcoin has their own Lightning Network. So that whole group of layer 2s, they call them state channels. And with these state channels, it's about transaction speed, but there are no smart contracts. So it's great for sending and receiving, for making simple transactions. However, you can't do any DeFi. You can't do any additional functionality. And so that's what we're doing with Sundial. It's much different. So it's a different style of layer 2. So they do state channels, and we have something called a roll-up. It's an optimistic roll-up. So we get a lot of the features of Cardano on the layer 2. So we'll allow for the full expressiveness of Cardano, all of the DeFi, the dApps, the wallets. They get to interact and be much more expressive.
Interesting. I was wondering about that. So, third question, relationship with Bitcoin OS. Since both Sundial and Bitcoin OS are tackling Bitcoin interoperability, so people naturally wonder how they're connected. So, is Sundial working with Bitcoin OS, or are they separate efforts?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. It's a good question. So we're very close to Bitcoin OS, but we're separate but partners. And so it's we think the best arrangement. So as Sundial, as the layer 2, we want to work with different partners. And we think Bitcoin OS is a very important partner. Some of you, maybe in the Japanese community, might remember back at the end of last year in October. So myself and Yago, we went to the Cardano Summit and announced Bitcoin and Cardano coming together. And we got a big surge of support from the community and people across the world, actually, who are interested in these two major blockchains working together. So since then, we've designed our features to work together. So a lot of what Bitcoin OS is doing around new bridges, new token standards like charms, it plugs in perfectly to what we're doing with Sundial. And so it's mutually supporting. We have other partnerships as well, because we know that this is a very important industry, a very important segment. So we also work with Fluid Tokens and IOG. And so there's a lot of really great work coming together with all of these partners. We actually work a lot more together than many people realize.
Got it. That's clearing up. Fourth question. When will BTC move in a real way? So Sundial aim to enable real Bitcoin to move across chain via XBTC, unlocking use case like DeFi and prediction markets. When can user expect to actually see Bitcoin moving to Sundial?
Yes, it's also another good question. So we realize that a lot of the components are going to come at different stages. So we're going to have some of the beginning through our partnerships, some of the first Bitcoin coming to Cardano in the next couple of weeks and months. So you'll see some new updates from IOG, from Bitcoin OS, about some of the first new demos of additional smart contract capabilities on Cardano with Bitcoin. So that's very exciting. And then additional features will come later. For Sundial, we imagine the layer 2, so the very fast, safe, affordable Bitcoin transactions will come the beginning of next year. But we've got to do quite a bit of work between now and then. So other features we want to build out relate to node operation and making sure we've got like staking and other additional features.
Nice. That's exciting. Thank you for sharing. Fifth question. What is the team focused on now? Behind the scenes, the team is working to overcome the technical hurdles of connecting Bitcoin and Cardano. So what are you mainly focused on right now from an engineering standpoint?
Yes, well, there's always something new to be worried about, always something new to be working on, but it's all very exciting. So on the one hand, the technological backend that we're focusing most on these days relates to the node operation and getting the layer 2 functionality, because what we're doing is very innovative. It's never been done before on Cardano. So Phil from Anastasia Labs, ourselves, and Fluid Tokens all working together. We're doing things that haven't been built before on Cardano, so we need to spend more time doing research, more time bringing outside developers in. So it's a very beneficial thing, but it takes some time. So that's some of the concern on the back end for the layer 2 functionality, but we're also building out, as was mentioned before, node operation, because we want to allow for staking in the future and put people's Bitcoin to work. And connected to that are a lot of interpersonal relations and building connections with other companies. A lot of institutions are very interested in institutional Bitcoin for yield generation, for security, for DeFi. And so this is our target, to work with these companies. And so we spend a lot of time talking to people in the Bitcoin space and at institutions, getting them excited to kind of come over and work together with us.
Okay, sounds like a lot of work.
Yes.
This is the insight. Sixth question. So upcoming product roadmap. There's growing curiosity about whether Sundial will offer things like staking incentive or its own DeFi stack. What kind of product or features and plan going forward?
Yes, yeah. Well, so I mentioned a little bit already about staking. That's going to be a very important part, because we want to go out and compete with some of the other projects that are trying to do Bitcoin staking, but we want to do it more securely, more native for Bitcoin, more UTXO security, using the best of Cardano. And so that will take a little bit more time, that development work, but it's a very, very big priority. Because today, just so everybody knows, of all of the Bitcoin that is out there, now it's more than $2 trillion worth of Bitcoin, but less than 2% of all of that Bitcoin is involved in any kind of DeFi or yield generation. So 98% of Bitcoin is idle. It does not do anything. So to go out and target that Bitcoin and to put it to work for yields and for DeFi within the Cardano tech stack, that is a winning proposition. It's our focus, but we've got additional features later on. So looking to have additional products built by our partners. So as I was mentioning, different institutions. These days, many people are looking at what MetaPlanet is doing or strategy about having Bitcoin treasury plays. We also want to be able to have services available on Sundial to house those various Bitcoin treasuries. So it's a nice additional collaborative win where we get a lot more Bitcoin being put to work on chain for Bitcoin and for Cardano.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. So last question, message to the Japanese community. So Japan has a strong presence in the Cardano ecosystem and is watching Sundial with interest. Do you have a message you'd like to share with the Japanese community?
Well, yes. Well, first off, enormous thanks to the Japanese community for being so supportive over these months now. We started with a very big idea at the end of last year. And working with Utah and Taichi and all the other guys there in Japan and helping to get awareness out there. And the Japanese community was very supportive in our Catalyst round to get support for some early funding. Very, very thankful. We couldn't have done it without Japan and the Japanese community. And in talking with people in the Japanese community, it seems that they do understand what we're trying to do for Sundial to bring Bitcoin and Cardano together. And so it's been very, very important to have that tie. And in the future, I want to spend more time in Japan, actually, to further awareness and education around not just Bitcoin, but also Cardano and how they work together. So we think that there's a lot more that we can be doing there to get Bitcoin and Cardano and ADA off the sidelines and more active in DeFi, because there's incredible use cases now that are going to be very transformative for many people.
Thank you. I think that will mean out of our viewers. Thanks again for sharing today. I'm very enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you so much. Arigato, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here and wonderful to speak with you. I look forward to having more discussions with you.
Awesome. Thank you. See you next time, everyone.
いかがでしたでしょうか。今後、数週間から数ヶ月以内に、提携というかパートナーシップを通じて実際にビットコインが動き出すかもしれないとシェルドンさん言っていたので、こちらかなり期待できるんじゃないかなと思います。今後もこのビットコイン×カルダのこの動きを追っていきたいなと思います。今後ともこのような役に立つような情報、そして新鮮な情報を皆様にお届けしていこうと思うので、ぜひチャンネル登録どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。そしてまた僕、SASAステークプール、SASAステークプール2というステーキングプールも運営しておりますので、ぜひ ADA をお持ちの方は僕のプールへご委任いただけますと大変嬉しいです。で、また Drep などもやっているので、もし僕の考え方であったり、カルダノに対する理念、こちらに共感していただけた方は、ぜひ Drep のご委任の方もよろしくお願いいたします。それでは次の動画で会いましょう。